Hi, everyone, and welcome to Whispers from Reddit. Grab a drink, relax, and let's dive into today's stories. My married friend confessed that he's been in love with me for nearly 15 years. TLDR, my very good friend of 15 years who is married, confessed that he's had feelings for me since we met in middle school. I hate that I'm here, but this has been messing with my head. My friend, 26 male, and I, 25 female, have been friends since the 6th grade. We've always been pretty close. He asked me out once or twice in high school, but I said no, mostly because I wasn't allowed to date, LOL. There was never any romantic implication of interest after that. Fast forward to now, we've both been married for about 2 years, attended each other's weddings. I hang out with his wife regularly. He hangs out with my husband regularly. We go on double dates. It's always been super fun and normal. He and his wife have been open with my husband and me that they are hoping to have kids next year. A few nights ago, my friend and I were both up late and texting, which isn't unusual for us since we've been friends for a decade and a half. He generally works the graveyard shift at his job, and I've had insomnia my whole life. We were talking about a show we both like, and I was like, oh, dude, you need to see my new, themed after the show, sweatpants I just got, and sent him a photo just of the sweats because I was wearing them. He then asked if there was a matching shirt, to which I said no, and he asked me to show him what top I was wearing anyway. It wasn't appropriate, so I declined. Back in 2018, I went through a really rough breakup. This is relevant, bear with me, and was just generally making a lot of crappy decisions, one of which directly impacted him. I don't have any memory of this, although I believe him, but he randomly brought up that I sent him a certain type of photo back then and that he rode that high for a month. He told me this after saying, well, it's not like I haven't already seen it, and asked me again to share what top I was wearing, and I again said no. At that point, he told me that he's essentially been in love with me since middle school and that he's happy in his marriage and knows I'm happy in mine, but that he's always wondered deep down what would have happened if we got together. It threw me for a loop. I'd never had any indication of this, or maybe I'm just oblivious, and he went on to tell me how much he's fantasized about me and things like that. I stopped the conversation gently. I didn't want things to get more awkward than they were, so it was a lot of, dang, that's crazy, dude, from me. The next day he texted me and asked how I was doing. I told him I felt a little weird and that he had come very close to crossing a line, but didn't cross it. He said he agreed and apologized and said he didn't want anything to change in our marriages or our friendship and to just leave it that night and move on. I agreed, and then to end the conversation, he told me that if I ever wanted to hear more about his private thoughts about me, to let him know. Obviously, I don't plan to take him up on that, but I don't really know how to move forward with this information. I still really value the friendship. He's one of my longest lasting friends. I've never been in a situation like this, and it's weird. I'd love to get some advice. My husband confessed to my sister that he had feelings for her. She didn't tell me. I found one single text from my husband to my sister, and it read, "You didn't tell her, did you? Please don't say anything and let's forget about it." It was from about 4 years ago, before he proposed to me. I confronted my husband now. He confessed that he told her he had feelings for her and she rebuffed him. I called her and all she did was cry and apologize and say she didn't know what to do. She never told me. She let me marry him. I have no words. I don't know what to do. My husband's son is 28 male, confessed his shameful secret that my husband would want to know about. How do I, 34 female, respect my duty to my husband without ruining my relationship with his son? My husband, Daniel, is 60. Didn't know where to add that in the title. I know that's a big age difference and Reddit is against that, but I met Daniel when I was a grown woman in my 30s. On top of that, my husband looks better than most men my age, so my husband and his son aren't very close. Daniel wants to mend their relationship, but it's difficult because there's a sort of cultural clash between them. Daniel was raised in a culture where affection is shown through sacrifice and discipline, while his son is American. So his son expects more emotional openness and outright affection than Daniel is really capable of. This has definitely led to a lot of resentment, and when I came along, that sadly made things worse. His son was really unhappy about it. His son just takes an issue with me, specifically, and he's been taking that out on his dad. He usually ignores me, and when he doesn't ignore me, he can be nasty. Daniel has asked me to do my best to put up with it and somehow try to have a good relationship with him. I've tried, and I think maybe that finally helped. Daniel is visiting his mom, and I was unable to go. I can't take that much time off work right now, so I've been home alone except for the few days when his son decides to stay here. His son doesn't have his own place. He usually stays with his mom, but sometimes he'll be here. I don't really want to get into the details of what happened, but the other day, he was here. And I sort of understood what was going on, but later that night, he got drunk and we had a long conversation, and at some point, he basically confessed what he's been doing. Let's say he's been gambling, even though that's not it. He told me that he's been gambling for many years. He spent a lot of money on it. He doesn't feel like he can stop. He even sought therapy for it, and that didn't help him. He feels like he can't have a normal life because he has this constant urge to gamble. The morning after that, he came up to me and literally started crying and asked me not to tell his dad anything. But I know Daniel. I know his values. I know he wouldn't want his son to live like this. His son says Daniel wouldn't do anything to help him, but I believe that's because he perceives Daniel to be as cold and uncaring when he really isn't. I don't know what Daniel could do to help, but I know that he would want to know. I thought I'd try to convince his son that he needs to tell him what he's been going through, but his son went back to his mom's place. He isn't here now, and I wonder if he'd avoid me even more now that I know all of this. I feel like just telling Daniel might make his son go no contact and ruin their relationship altogether. And if I don't tell him, his son might like me, which would make Daniel happy. But it feels like I would be betraying my husband if I just sat on this. Met a random woman at a large corporate function, and she confessed. I was recently at a large corporate party with many people I didn't know from different offices around the country. I was making small talk with the wife of someone I didn't know, and she started making humorous complaints about her husband. Nothing serious, typical middle-aged marriage jokes. We're laughing and says, "We've never met before, and we will probably never meet again, so can I tell you something I need to get off my chest?" I say, "Sure," and she confesses that she had a years-long affair that ended about 2 years ago. I smile and say, "That's not uncommon and not so bad." She then gets very serious and says, "That's not the bad part. He recently died of cancer, and she so wanted to see him before he died, but she couldn't. Her husband actually knew about the affair, but his wife never did." She was on the verge of tears, saying she couldn't even go to the funeral, but she did go to his grave afterwards. She couldn't talk to her husband about it. She couldn't talk to anyone. I wanted to ask her more questions, but she stopped me. She got herself together and left to join her husband. Before the evening ended, she talked to me again, with other people around. Big smile on her face, saying, "What a great fun conversation we had." She asked to exchange numbers, which we did. She started texting me 2 days later, giving me a bit more details about the affair, explaining that she really loved the guy and missed him terribly, and then told me that her marriage was miserable and that she believes her husband is really gay. My rapist sent me an Instagram DM confessing to raping me 7 years later. The prosecutor still refuses to press charges. What can I do? For the sake of anonymity, I am going to keep this long story short. I was raped in college by a man I did not know and did not ever express interest in. He followed me home from a party and snuck into my building and waited until my male friend who walked me home that night, to get away from him, left my building to come bang on my door. At the time, I was an 18-year-old white female, and this was a smallish college town in the South. I had a lot more evidence than typical campus rape cases, witnesses, text messages, rape kit, and this was not the type of guy that made one horrible mistake. If nothing happened, I knew he would 10,000% do it to another girl, which is why I felt it was my responsibility to try to do something. By the time the DA finally officially told me they weren't going to do anything 2 years later, because it's difficult to prosecute when alcohol is involved, it was too late for me to pursue a civil suit. It might be worth noting that the man comes from money, and a lot of it. I also found out they never analyzed my rape kit, let alone investigated the crime scene. There were few other things that were pretty sketchy about the police investigation/DA's handling of the case, but I can't get too specific on here. It kind of felt like they were doing everything in their power to not prosecute, and there's literally nothing on his record to show for it, not even a dropped charge. It took me a long time to truly move on and accept that I did what I could, but I finally did. And then a week or so ago, 6.5 years later, I realized I had unread message requests on Facebook from a month prior and saw I had something from him. We were not Instagram friends. They were various messages in a row that clearly demonstrate he is not well mentally, but more importantly, at the end, he said, "So I guess I raped you. I won't do it to anyone else ever." I was shook. I sent it to the DA's office, who were utterly shocked, and the next day said they'd get back to me in another week, but that I should get my hopes up because this kind of stuff is really complicated and difficult to prosecute. While they haven't told me officially yet that they aren't going to prosecute, I know in my gut it's not going to happen. They'll find an excuse. So I know I need a lawyer, so please don't give that to me as advice. I am posting this question to see if anyone's ever been through anything similar and knows of nonprofits, resources, or pro bono lawyers that might be able to help me. I can't sue him, statute of limitations, and I can't really sue the government, uphill battle, but I also can't just let this go again. If there's anything I've learned recently, it's that systems don't change by staying quiet. What can I do to both get a mark on his record and shed light on the justice system that failed me and I'm sure many others? 5 years ago, I got a Facebook message from my rapist, 7 years after the assault. He didn't apologize, but his message reopened every wound I'd spent years trying to heal. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I wasn't going to let it go this time. Thanks for watching Whispers from Reddit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications for more stories every week.